We're up to Daf Yomi Beitzah, Amud Aleph. We're up to the Mishnah. Very Yisodistic a daf, the daf of Mitoich. A lot of heterim on Yontif comes as a result of this sugya, this Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. Beishamai Yomrim. Beishamai says, Ein moitziin, cannot carry out loyas a cotton, a child, loyas a lulav, nor can you carry a lulav, loyas a sefer Torah, the Rishus Harabim, you can't carry on Yontif. Beis Hillel matirin and Beis Hillel permits it. Right? So what's the only thing that's permitted? Says Rashi, loyas a cotton according to Beis Shammai, kol mili de lav tzarech achila. It's lav davka cotton, but anything that's not tzarech achila, anything that's not for the purpose of oichel nefesh. Again, the difference between ein ben Shabbos liyontif is only oichel nefesh. If the thing you're carrying is not pertaining to oichel nefesh, says Beis Shammai you can't carry it. Then says Beis Hillel you can. Why is that? So that we're going to see in the Gemara, the concept of mitoich. Tani Tana Kamei Rabbi Yitzchak, a reciter of Brises, said in front of Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Tani Tana Kamei Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Hashoichet oilis nedava biyontif, loika. Now, we know shchita is permitted biyontif, but that's something you could eat, right? A carbon oila you can't eat; it's totally burnt. Now, a nedava is a carbon oila that you can bring anytime. There are carbon oils that are chayvos, that even though you can't eat, but it's a chiyuv to bring, and the Torah permits you to go ahead and bring that on Yontif. But stam to bring a nedava on Yontif to go ahead and shecht it, you'll get malchus because of the iser of kol malacha lo yasa behem. That all malacha should not be done on them. That's what the reciter of Brises said in front of Rav Dimi. That as a result of going ahead and slaughtering an animal that can't be eaten on Yontif, right? You get malchus. Amalei. Said Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi to the reciter of the Brises, the amlacha money. Who is this according to? It's Beis Shammai. The army lo yaminon mitoich shehutru haitzah litzayrich hutru nami shloi litzarich. The Beis Hillel ha'army mitoich shehutru haitzah litzayrich hutru nami shloi litzarich. Hachanami mitoich shehutru shchita litzayrich hutru nami shchita shloi litzarich. A lot of words. What does it mean? We now have an answer to the machlokes in our Mishnah. Why does Beis Shammai say you can't go ahead and carry on Yontif? Because it's shaloi l'tzayrich. I can carry food. We don't say mitoich you're mutter to carry food. It's mutter to carry something else. Memela, you can't carry a cotton. You can't carry a lulav. You can't carry a sefer Torah because you don't say mitoich. Beis Hillel matirin. Why? You say mitoich the Torah matted you to carry food. You can carry anything else. So mistama, the same thing over here, paralleling kaitzah to shchita. We know you're able to shech namad on Yontif. So like Beis Shammai, just like you can't carry something just for the purpose of carrying ayid matir achila, that's achila. So in matir shchita, what did matir shchita for? Shchita that can lead to an achila, but a carbon oilless nedava, which cannot lead to an achila, it didn't matter. So that brisa apparently would be Beis Shammai. The Beis Shammai of our Mishnah, who does not permit carrying, would not shalei l'tzayrich, would not permit shchita shalei l'tzayrich. And the purpose of shchita is to eat. And since you can't eat the carbon oila, on the other hand, Beis Hillel, who permits you to go ahead and carry, mitoich shehuta haitzah, huta avat. It would permit shchita shalei l'tzarech, just like it permits shchita of an achila. That's his mirror. Excuse me.
So according to Beis Hillel, you could bring the oilus riyah on Yontif.
According to Beis Hillel, you could bring an oilus riyah on Yontif. You don't, because you don't bring chayv. You don't bring nedarim. I mean, on Yontif you don't. You don't. Yeah. Again. Yeah. Okay. Again, because it's not kaveh zman. It's not, in other words, I think the answer to your question is that if you have druthers to do it the right way, do it the right way. Right.
If you're saying the type, so then what's the difference? I don't know. I just don't understand the difference. If you're saying according to Beis Hillel, that you're saying the type, so therefore it's totally legal.
Okay. So Rashi is going to bring. We'll see Rashi soon. That Rashi says everything is permitted, and the Chachamim said other things are not permitted. In other words, the things that we don't do, even though we say mitoich, that's a full-fledged waiver, right? We go ahead and ask us certain things. Okay, so that would perhaps answer your question. Probably, but your answer to your question is a pasuk or something. But I think again we'll see Rashi. Yeah.
So what does Brazil do with the call we have anybody shots the until when it comes out to Gavad? That means there's a call that we have.
It's true.
So but he's saying retire. So you're bending the call.
No, the heter of mitoich is because of the oichel nefesh.
Right, but it's aim bending.
Right. What does right butt? First, what does right butt mean?
Hey, but it says Bilvad. The Bilvad means only.
Bilvad means oichel nefesh. So this is a tailad of oichel nefesh. You're being very bilvad. This, but Hira says it's the bilvad is this.
Expanded the Bilvad.
Yeah, bilvad is expanded.
According to Brazil.
1,000%. And Baruch Hashem, or else you Yontif would not be you wouldn't have kids in baby carriages rolling around on Yontif. Like, I wish I lived in 5 towns with an area, right? That thing, in Brooklyn, like they live there. That's what happened.
They made Shabbos.
Okay, so now, that's what he wants to say. He wants to say that that's the Mishnah. Now the Gemara asked the following: Maskevla Rabba on this day. Maskevla Rabba asked the following day: Memai de Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel b'hapligi. How do you know the machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is contingent on mitoich? Dilma, I have another machlokes. In other words, fellas, what are we saying? We're telling if the din of the Mishnah of Haitzah is mitoich, so therefore mitoich Haitzah, mitoich Shchita, let's say it's a svara that's limited to Haitzah. Then you can extend it to the Shchita of a oilus right in the dava. It'd be limited to Haitzah. In other words, could be is no din of machlokes whether there's a din of Haitzah by Yantif or not. Maybe Beis Shammai holds just like Shabbos there's a din of Haitzah, so too on Yantif there's a din of Haitzah. And Beis Hillel says no, there's no din of Haitzah of by Yantif at all. Nothing to do with mitoich. There is no din of Haitzah by Yantif, period. If that din is limited to Haitzah, then you can't go ahead and parallel it to Shchita of an Oilus Nadava. As I explained the Gemara. Fred Nachama. Maskiv Rabba on the teretz or the insight of Rav Yitzchak bar Rav Dimi to say that the Mishnah is in conjunction with what the man the Amma who says mitoich. Maskil Rabba, Mimai de Beis Shammai Beis Hillel b'hapligi. How do you know they're arguing about carrying a child, the lulav sefer Torah, and the svara is mitoich? Dilma be'erev haitzah Shabbos, vein erev haitzah yantif kamifligi. Maybe they're arguing whether there's a din of haitzah or erev yantif or not. Masara erev haitzah Shabbos, erev haitzah yantif. Beis Shammai holds just like this, you need an erev and a din of haitzah by Shabbos. You need an erev haitzah and yantif. Umasav and Beis Hillel holds erev haitzah Shabbos. Tafka by Shabbos is there a din of haitzah. Vein erev haitzah yantif. And there's no din of haitzah by yantif. Kidchsiv leisaitziu mishami batechem b'yom Shabbos. The Shabbos in there's a din of haitzah beyond to fly. So in other words, you're not locked into saying that it's a din of haitzah, that's a din of mitoich, and it extends to and Beis Shammai is the man the Amma who says you can go ahead and not shech an oilus oif because in the dava because you have no head for it, guys. In other words, there's no such thing as mitoich. Right now, we don't know. Look at the back in the Mishnah. Beis Shammai oimrim ein mitziin. You can't take out loyas a cotton loyas a lulav loyas a sefer Torah lishus a rabbim. You know why? Because just like Shabbos you can't carry, who adin yantif you can't carry. Beis Hillel matirin. Beis Hillel says it's permitted. Guys, would that be pshat in the Mishnah? Yes, great. It sounds good. Yes. Now you go to the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Tani Tana Kamed Rav Yitzchak bar Dimi Hashaychel Elos Nedaif Biyantif Loike. You get Malchus. Why are you getting Malchus, guys? Why are you getting Malchus for? Why are you getting? It doesn't say you're getting Malchus because you're not allowed to shech on something you can't eat. That's why you're getting Malchus, right? We want to say this is according only to Beis Shammai, but Beis Hillel would say it's okay. Mehechatesa. Where would you know that from? Not from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah is discussing Haitzah. It's not discussing what? Shchita. Got it?
No.
Yeah.
From where do you know that there's always difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos left?
A pasuk in the Torah. It's a Mishnah Megillah Daf Yud Gimel, I think, one in the Mishnah early on.
So where does the talk come into play? Only supposed to be touched. Is that really tight?
Where do you know? What do you mean? I just told you Pshat in the Mishnah. I just read a Mishnah, right?
Right.
I just read a Mishnah, right? You're taking information that you already know mitoich. Forget that. Forget that. In other words, we know le'inyan achila there's something called eichel nefesh. We don't know anything called mitoich. Zero. We don't know that. Can you do it? Maybe there's something called mitoich you can do avoid for, maybe, but it's right now just based upon the information in front of us. You want to say and extrapolate from our Mishnah that the din of not being able to shech a oilas nedava on yontif is from our Mishnah. You can't extrapolate that because our Mishnah is you're not locked into saying what. Why? Beis Shammai is discussing carrying. Beis Shammai says you can't carry a kid.
Right.
Why can't you carry a kid? Because you did. Because it's you can't carry on Shabbos, and you can't carry on Shabbos. You can't carry on Yontif. Now, with that is Pshat in our Mishnah. Can you correlate that to Shechita? No. So that's what the Gemara is stating. You wanted to say based on if it's mitoich, yeah, mitoich. Your haitzah is permitted. Shechita is also permitted. But if it's not mitoich as the explanation of our Mishnah, you're not locked into saying that. That's what the Gemara is suggesting. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to go back and say, no, it's got to be mitoich. It's got to be mitoich. Listen what the Gemara, guys. Listen what the Gemara says. Maskala Rabbi Yosef on this on Rabbi's question. Elamiyata. If you're selling me pshat in the Mishnah, is that Beis Shammai says you can't carry, and Beis Hillel says you could carry. Liflagu ba'avonim. Why don't they go ahead, Rod, and argue by stones? What's the kasha, guys? What's the kasha? What's the reason for muktzah? Let's go back, guys. Shabbos Kuf Chof Gimel. Nehemiah ben Chachalya came and what did he find? They were being mechal. What were they doing? They were carrying. So what did he say? Okay, good. So Mamela, when something is, can we correlate now? The whole reason something's muktzah is because you can't carry. So now, if you could carry, you should be able to carry anything that's muktzah, right? You're telling me the din of our Mishnah is a din what in haitzah. So then tell me a bigger chiddush. Argue whether you can carry a stone or not. If you hold that what? That there's a din of haitzah, you can't carry a stone because it's muktzah. But if you hold there is no din of haitzah like Beis Hillel, you should forget about a kid, forget about a lulav, forget about Sefer Torah, carry a muktzah because there's no muktzah.
Maybe he was only saying, only saying that it's all tzarech yontif. The stone is not tzarech yontif, that's why.
Again, you're carrying, you don't have, it doesn't make a difference.
No, he's saying that.
But tzarech has nothing to do with it. Is there a din of haitzah on yontif or not? Nothing to do with tzarech. Not with tzarech, no. It's anything. You can't carry on yontif, period. It says basically you could carry on yontif. So if you can carry on yontif, then there's no muktzah. Look at beautiful Rashi, guys. Look at this Rashi. Lift the guba avonim. Look at this Rashi, guys. Lift the guba avonim. If ain asa haitzah, then ain issa tiltal. If there's no din of haitzah, there's no din of muktzah. Tiltal, guys. Tiltal means muktzah. Shaloi nesa tiltal elim misham haitzah. This is Rashi Shita. The Rambam disagrees. Shaloi nesa tiltal elim misham haitzah. Umashaloi gazu al kol titulim afilu al oichlim v'kelim. So if that's the case, like Beis Shammai, guys, right? Why aren't they guys on all titulim? You don't make it a gezer on a tzibur unless most of the tzibur can go. In other words, on Shabbos, you should be able to touch anything, of course, of Eitzah, right? Because you worry about taking out anything. But we don't make a gezer that the tzibur can't stand with. This is now. Let's just continue Rashi. When they didn't argue by Avonim, when they only argued by kids, and they only argue by lulav, and they only argue by Sefer Torah, Shmamina del Kulyama Yesh Haitzah Yontif, that you could carry a Yontif. Even Beis Shammai says you can carry a Yontif. Because if you didn't, you should say Avonim. Ella Sheminat Torah, guys, listen to this. Sheminat Torah Hutru Litzayrich. Minat Torah, they said Litzayrich, period. Once there's Zayrich, you can carry anything. Ubesil Islahu Kivin the Torah Litzayrich Hutru Minat Torah Legamri. Kivin the hutru l'tzayrich, hutru min ha'torah legamri. In other words, like there's nothing you can't carry. Zero. You can carry everything. The Litzairich, the heter of Litzairich says there is no din of Eitzah Shabbos, period. Afil Shleil Tzarech, Afil Shleil Tzarech. That's midaraisa. El Rabbanon gozer b'midi dahavi tircha. The Rabbanon will gozer with something that's what is a tircha. Leit tzarech kigoyin avonim. A tircha that's not necessary. The chacham will gozer. They limited the Torah's haitzah. Aval b'katan b'sefer Torah did tzrichen lehu b'yantif. You need them on yantif. Loy gozer. They didn't make such a gezerah, and it remains in the klal of the heter of Eitzah. He doesn't hold this mitoich, this migu. Something that the Torah matri permitted. Okay, so that's Rashi explains it beautifully, guys. Here's the Rashi learns pshat, guys. Guys, look at me. Zoom is, look at me. Says Rashi, when the Torah went ahead and said you can carry foichel nefesh, says Beis Hillel, the Torah is telling me you can carry anything in the world on Yontif. Anything. I don't need it, doesn't make a difference. You can carry. The Rabbanan, because the tircha of Yontif, to go ahead and keep the Yontif as a Yontif, said they limited it. If it's Shaloilit Sairich and then there's no purpose behind it, then what? You can't carry it. There's no purpose behind the stone. There's no purpose behind the stone. And therefore you can't carry a stone. Beis Hillel, that's Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai said, when the Torah permitted carrying, it didn't give a carte blanche heta. It simply said, if it's for food, for tzarich, you can carry. V'zehu. If it's not food, it remains asur, because there never was an all right heta. So, says Rabbi Yosef beautifully then, since the Mishnah did not give the case of a stone, which would have been the chit, which would have amplified that the machloikas is in Haitzah and not in Mitoich, you'd be right. But since it didn't give the example of a stone, it gave the example of other things, it must be because of Mitoich. And therefore, Inachinami, the Brisa that says Shaychit Oilis Bilvad is according to Beis Shammai. A little cheshbon there.
And therefore, you left Muktzah in place because of the Chacham, because of the Chacham. Because the Chacham said that you shouldn't carry a stone. So therefore, the Muktzah of Shabbos, according to Beis Hillel, there should eradicate Muktzah, right?
There shouldn't be Muktzah.
On Yontif.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
But the Chacham, because of the Chacham, that's what Muktzah no?
Yeah. Shema Mina, okay, so it says the Gemara, Elamidalai miflugu b'avanim, they didn't bring an avanim, which would have been a bigger chiddush. Shema Mina, by Tzah Shalei L'Tzarech. Pligi, Machlokes is by Tzah Shalei L'Tzarech, and you have the Svar of Mitoich. Guys, good? Very geschmack, yes? It's such a beautiful Gemara. The Af Rabbi Yochanan Savar, and even Rabbi Yochanan holds, b'mitoich shehutru Hitzah L'Tzarech, Hutchanami Shalei L'Tzarech Pligi. That the Machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is Mitoich. The Tani Tana Kamed Rabbi Yochanan, Hamavashal Gedi. Okay, guys, you're cooking a giranasha in milk, right? In milk on Yontif. How many things you and then you're eating it? Okay, so let's do it outside. I can be chayav for possibly 5 things. 1, I lit a fire shalei l'tzarech. 2, I cooked on Yontif shaloi l'tzarech. 3, I cooked basa b'chalav. 4, I ate a giranasha. And 5, I ate basa b'chalav. So 2 cookings, 2 eatings, and 1 lighting a fire. That's 5. Got it? 2 cookings, 2 eatings, and 1 lighting a fire. So now, mvashal giranasha, someone who cooks the giranasha, I think that's sciatica nerve, b'chalav in milk, b'yontif, v'achlu, loika chamesh. He gets 5 malchus. Loika mishum mevashal gid. What meaning? What is mevashal? There's no issa to cook a giranasha. It's also to cook on yontif shalei l'tzarech. Since I can't eat it, I'm over on cooking. I'm over on kamalach l'yasa behem. For loika mishum meichel gid, and you get malchus for eating a gid, which certainly is asar. For loika mishum mevashal basa b'chalav. Of course, like sevashal gedi b'chalei v'imo says 3 times in the Torah. Echel is achila, echel is hana, echel in bishul. For liking mishum oichel basa b'chalav, and you're going to get malchus for eating basa b'chalav. The like mishum havara, and you're going to get malchus for lighting a fire, for lighting a fire on Yontif. Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan told this person. Rabbi Yochanan told this person who was reciting the Bryce in front of him, "Poik tani lebra, take it out." Havara ubishol ain a mishnah, lighting a fire and cooking ain a mishnah. You know, that part, then they're not. You only chayiv 3. I'm only chayiv for eating gid. I'm only chayiv for eating basa b'chalav, and only chayiv for cooking basa b'chalav. But the yontif part is out, right? But the yontif part is out. The imtim tzaloim a mishnah, and if you're going to tell me it is learned, Beis Shammai it's according to Beis Shammai dami lo yaminon mitoich shehutru haitzol etzarich hutru nami shaloi letzarich. Hachanami lo yaminon mitoich shehutru havara letzarich hutru nami shaloi letzarich. The Beis Hillel kivin the ami mitoich shehutru haitzol etzarich hutru nami shaloi letzarich. Hachanami mitoich shehutru havara letzarich hutru nami shaloi letzarich. In other words, this price can't be correct. You can only be chayiv 3. Only be chayiv for eating basa b'chalav, cooking basa b'chalav, and eating the gid anosha. Because yontif is just not b'cheshbin. And if you're going to tell me it is b'cheshbin, then it's limited to who? Beis Shammai, who said only litzayrich. But if it's shaloi litzayrich, you be chayiv. So over here, did I light a fire shaloi litzayrich? Yes. Did I cook shaloi litzayrich? Yes. So those 5 would be according to Beis Shammai. But like Beis Hillel, this is Rabbi Yochanan talking, the great Rabbi Yochanan telling him, and you see from his conversation and his retort that he's holding mitoich, because he says it's only 3, not 2. But if you can tell me it's 5, and 3, it's 3, not 2, 3, not 5. If you're going to tell me it is 5, it's limited to the sheet of Beis Shammai, who doesn't hold the mitoich, because according to Beis Hillel, mitoich havara, you'll be able to do that. Yes. Correct. You're chayiv for that. Eating, you're chayiv for eating gid anasha, eating basa b'chalav, and cooking basa b'chalav. Those are that's the chiyuv. In other words, chayim, anything that has nothing to do with Shabbos, you be yontif, you be chayiv, right? Yeah, you be chayiv. You be chayiv. But you see from the conversation that that's the din. Okay, have and you didn't get this stove. Yeah, this is better, but it's upside down. Everyone should have this. Okay. Says the now there are we'll read this chart soon. There are 24 different matnas kahuna, guys. 24 different matnas kahuna. Sure, Chaim, you can tell us how many. I'm not going to test you, but there are quite a few. Okay, challah is a well-known one. Truma is the most well-known. Probably the least well-known, or from the least well-known, is something called the matanis, right? You agree? Okay. Which one don't you know about?
No.
I get. Okay. Anyway, because you don't know. Anyway, there's something called matanis, guys. Meaning, from every animal, not a carbon, any animal chulin, you're supposed to give the right leg, the l'chaim, the cheeks with the tongue, and the keva, the 4th stomach of an animal. In the 4th stomach of an animal, you have the rennet. So if you wanted a good tongue sandwich and cheese, you had to go to the kohen. The kohen, they had a monopoly on this. They had a monopoly on this, right? That's called the matanis. So now, let's say there's a gezerah on yontif, fellas. You can't separate truma on yontif because it's like makav pat. It's just like taking money. You're correcting it, right? You're making it fine. So we said you can't go ahead. It's yontif. If you didn't shade up, if you didn't separate your truma, you can't do it. Now I shecht on yontif. I can go ahead, right, and separate the zaraya l'chaim v'keva. I can separate the right front foot, the cheeks, and the but in English the more. No one uses that word, but the more they call the keva. And challah you could separate. Why can you separate challah on yontif? Because you can knead dough on yontif, right? Question. After you guys, here's the key. After you go ahead on yontif, you separate it. Can you send it to the kohen? Can you send it to the kohen or not? Says the Mishnah. Beis Shammai oimim ein meilichin chala umatanes lekohen biyontif. Even though, right, you can't do it, right? Even though you can't do it, ein meilichin chala umatanes lekohen biyontif Bein shehurmu me'amish, whether it was separated the day before and you should have sent it the day before. Bein shehurmu me'hayoim, whether it was separated today. Or Beisil matirin, and Beisil permits it. Says Rashi. Ein marlichin chala, afal pishem mutter b'afrashas, even though it's permitted to separate chala on yontif, leishar le'halachasim. We didn't permit sending it. Elatikin l'takeni sasai. You take it off that you can go ahead and eat your dough. Hitir of le'yoser. Matanis hazorel l'chaim v'keva. Af hein harmasan v'chuloi. Even it's permitted to separate them. Sharing it stavel arimam. You're commanded to separate them. How could you? And you can eat the other basa. Afal pishein toivlin kishar teva lesser basa b'chila miu. And like here is shara basa man. How you oichlin voiva basay. If you eat other basa, you be over in that say. Hilkach haramasan etiru by separating it. You're matted. Vein hoch ve'ein holchasan. V'kol mishum gezerah dein magbi and isam. In other words, just like it's like tikkun money. You can't go ahead and separate your what your truma. So I guess it's a gzeira that if you separate this, you may send it to the kaya and you may go ahead and do it truma also. That's the thing. So says Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel that Beis Shammai you can't go ahead and send it. Send Beis Hillel. Not only can you separate it, but you can send it as well. Good. That's the first thing. Now, this we're going to focus on a lot because it's a difficult Gemara, but I have a great try. I mean, I think it's good because I made it and it worked out. It's the first time I ever did it. It's a new try. Okay, so now. So what says Beis Shammai to Beis Hillel the following? Right. Amar lehem Beis Shammai, Gezer Shava. Now this doesn't mean a Gezer Mamish Gezer Shava. It means similar to a Gezer Shava. Chalu matanis matana l'kayim, the truma matana l'kayim. Kishem shein malichin es a truma, just like you can't take truma to the kayim. Kach ein malichin es a matanis. So too you cannot go ahead and take the matanis. You can't send the matanis to the kayim. Amar lehem Beis Hillel. Says Beis Hillel, Loyim Amit B'Truma She'ena Zakai Baramasan. The reason why you can't send Truma to the Kayin, because you're not able to go ahead and separate it. You're not allowed to separate it, it's thickened. Toimim Matanash Zakai Baramasan. What are you going to say about the Matanash that you say in the Truma? Okay, so it's not really a Gezer Shav, it's just a limit. Okay, so what does Beis Shammai say? Says Beis Shammai, listen, just like you can't go ahead and send matan, you can't go ahead and separate truma and send it. So too, you can't send the matanis, and I'll just say the word the matanis, and that includes chala. And Beis Hillel's retort is, what are you talking about? The reason I can't send truma is because I can't separate the truma. But chala, but matanis, which I could separate, I could send. That's what he says. Okay, I think we're going to do the chart. I'm going to do the chart. And I have it on the screen over here. I think I have it on the screen. No, not I saw. You can see, guys, you can see this? Okay, I just want to get this over here. Okay, now our Mishnah says that Truma is a no. Go, guys, yeah, go across the top. This is our Mishnah. Truma is a no-no. Everyone agrees it's a no-no, right? And the Matanos, Beis Shammai says no, you can't send, and Beis Hillel says you could send. Okay. Now the Havamina of the Gemara is that even if it's not available until today, meaning you only shechted it today, and it only showed up today, right? Beis Shammai would say you can't send it. In other words, our Mishnah does not make a distinction between when you could have done yesterday versus today. Obviously, if you didn't shecht it till today, you couldn't send it because you didn't have it. But it's mashma. Beis Shammai says the Havamina is Beis Shammai says even if it first arrived today, you can't send it. Guys, good. Get that clear. That's the Havamina of the Gemara. So no truma matanis. Okay, now we're going to have three opinions: Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi, and Acherim. We're going to say the Mishnah must be according to Acherim and not according to the Mishnah is not according to Acherim, not according to who? To Rabbi Yehuda. Now, what does Rabbi Yehuda say? Rabbi Yehuda says the machloikus between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, whether no, you can't send it, you could send it, is only Erev Yontif. But if it's on Yontif, then it's mutter to send. Guys, if the Shechita and Haroma took place on Yontif, it's mutter to send. So now, why is it not like our Mishnah? The third column is why it's not like our Mishnah. Because our Mishnah says no on Yontif according to Beis Shammai. On Yontif, no. And Rabbi Yehuda is saying on Yontif, yes. Beis Shammai is mutter to send. Everyone would hold it's mutter to send if it first arrived on Yontif. So Rabbi Yehuda cannot be like our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that what if on Yontif Beis Shammai says you can't send, and Beis Hill and Rabbi Yehuda says Beis Shammai says yes you could send it. So this line, guys, look at least the guys in the Yontif mutter to send is shver because mutter to send on Yontif. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Our Mishnah says no. Our Mishnah says you can't. Beis Shammai says no. Whatever which way you can't send it. Next, Rabbi Yossi does not make a distinction between Erev Yontif. Yontif, he just says the following din. He says, by Matanos, everyone says you can send it. By Matanos, everyone says you can send it. By Truma, no, that's the Machlokes. Right? By Truma, that's the Machlokes. Guys, right? Why isn't that like our Mishnah? Take a look at our Mishnah, guys. What does it say? No Truma, correct? And you, Rabbi Yossi, is saying it's Machlokes by Truma. You are saying the Machlokes is by Truma, guys, right? Look at the top line, the Mishnah. Truma, no. Yes? Look at Rabbi Yossi. Beis Hillel says Truma, yes. Good? Truma all agree no. That's why it can't be like our Mishnah. Guys, that's so now. Rabbi Yehuda can't be like our Mishnah, of course. Why? Beis Shammai says, right? It's mutter to send. It's Rabbi Yehuda says it's mutter to send. Rabbi Shammai says Tavmin is zasa to send. It can't be like Rabbi Yossi because Rabbi Yossi says the machlokes is by Truma, and our Mishnah says everyone agrees by Truma. Now, what about the Acherim? What do the Acherim hold? The Acherim hold Matanos is the machlokes, right? No, again, no difference. Erev Yontif, and Truma is no, which apparently is our Mishnah, guys, right? That apparently is our Mishnah. Acherim machlokes is by Shammai. Is machlokes is by Matanos, and everyone will give by Truma. So Pashtus, guys, you'd say the only of these three opinions that would come out according to our Mishnah is the opinion of Acherim. Everyone clear? Okay, let's do that. Let's do that so far, and then we'll see what we got. Okay, guys, you good? I had 3 different people come over and tell me today it's a difficult daf. And you're going to tell them, it depends. Of course, they didn't have a chart.
They didn't have Rabbi Stern.
I don't know if they didn't have a chart.
They didn't have Rabbi Stern's chart.
They certainly didn't have Rabbi Stein's chart. Okay, anyway, I made this at halftime. Anyway, says the Gemara. And the Taka did better in the plan. Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Kesal kataitach shehurmu mehayoim ushenishruchtu mehayoim. It was separated today and shechted today. Ushehumra me'amish, it was separated yesterday. Why? Ushenishruchtu me'amish. Because in other words, our Mishnah does not make a distinction. That meaning, when does by Shammai even argues on something that's today. Now, Moni Masnisan, who is the Tan of our Mishnah? Loi Rabbi Yossi, v'loi Rabbi Yehuda el Acherim. It's not the opinion of Rabbi Yossi. It's not the opinion of Yehuda. It's only Acherim. The Tanya, Rabbi Yehuda, loi nechlu Beis Shammai. Again, you have your chart next to you. Loi nechlu Beis Shammai. That loi nechlu Beis Shammai. Loi nechlu Beis Shammai uBeis Hillel al Matanei Shehurmu Me'erev Yontiv Shemelichim im Matanei Shehurmu beYontiv. That together, even though what one was Erev Yontif that you can't send, if it's mixed together with one that is today, like that you could do, you could send them together. Machlokes is what you can bring them by themselves, right? You can't bring them matanos by themselves. This is Beis Shammai's Shava. Donin chalu matanos, donin chalu matanos, matana l'koyim. Uchuma matana l'koyim. Kishem shem malichin es atruma, kachem malichin es amatanos. Amalin Beis Hillel lo yomamid b'truma shein es zakei b'masin. You're not able to separate it on Yontif. Tomer b'matanos es zakei b'masin that you're able to separate it on Yontif. So the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, why can't Rabbi Yehuda be the time of the Mishnah? Because again, the avamina of the Gemara is that what? That on Yontif, Beis Shammai says that you can't send. He says on Yontif you could send. Rabbi Yossi, like nechlu Beis Shammai Beis Hillel ala matanos shemalichin. No, they agree to matanos you could send. They agree to matanos you can send, right? Like nechlu el ala truma. The machlokes is by truma. Beis Shammai oimim ein melichin, Beis Hillel oimim melichin. So in other words, Rabbi Yossi guys is not good in 2 counts. He says they agree by matanos that you could send. Amisha says they disagree. He says by truma this machlokes. Amisha says by truma they agree that you can't, right? It's totally wrong. Both cases, both totally wrong. No, the Kachaya Beis Hillel Donan. And here's the way Rabbi Yossi will learn the conversation between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Chalu matanos matana lekoyin, utruma matana lekoyin. Kishem shemalichnas amatanos, kach mechlichnas atruma. Amulhem Beis Shammai. Lo yim ami b'matanos. Why? Shezakai bar masan, because you're able to separate them. Tami b'truma shein zakai bar masan. Okay, so therefore, Rabbi Yossi, guys, can't be. He's for sure not, guys. Rabbi Yossi doesn't work out at all. We have in our Mishnah saying Machlokes is by Matanos. He says Machlokes is not by Matanos. We have in a Mishnah saying that they both agree that you can't send Truma. He says the Machlokes is by Truma. So Rabbi Yossi is clearly out. Reb Yehuda was only out because why? He said that what? On Yontif you could, and Amish is mashma you can't. Acher Moimrim, Leinechlu Beishaim Vesila Truma. No, they don't like by Truma. You can't. Shem Alichin. Leinechlu Ela Ala Matanos. Shebeshamay Oimrim Ein Malichin. Vesila Malichin. Let's say our Mishnah is not Acherim, not Rabbi Yehuda. Now, the Gemara doesn't go ahead and even suggest Rabbi Yossi, guys. Rabbi Yossi clearly can't be the Tana of the Mishnah because he argued in both two accounts. In order for Rabbi Yehuda to argue on the Mishnah, our assumption in our Mishnah has to be correct, which is Beis Shammai would say, if it's shechted today, you can't send it today. If it's shechted today, you can't send it today. That's now. Why does our Mishnah say? Now look at the chart. Rabbi says shchita on erev yontif, but you separated on yontif, you can't send. If you shechted it, guys, look at the bottom of the chart. Says Rava, if you shechted on erev yontif, but you separated on yontif, you can't send. What happens if you shechted it on Yontif itself? Then you could send. In other words, we're changing the premise of the Mishnah. It's not pshat that you shechted it on Yontif and can't send. You shechted it on Erev Yontif, and you should have sent it on Erev Yontif. And you should have sent it on Erev Yontif, and you didn't. I don't know what I just did over there. And you didn't, right? So you shechted on Erev Yontif. That's the key, guys. The key word Erev Yontif, and you separate on Yontif. What happens if you would have shechted on Yontif? Then you could send. In other words, we're changing the Mishnah. So therefore, if we change the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda could be the Tana of the Mishnah because he agrees. If you shechted on Yontif, and he would agree if you shechted on Erev Yontif, you can't. Okay. Now, if I put in the column of the Acherim, if Rava is correct, then the Mishnah is not like the Acherim, right? Because it does not, who does not allow any matanos according to Beis Shammai anytime. Yet our Mishnah would allow matanos what? On Yontif, right? Okay, so that's the Gemara is going to suggest those two pratim. Okay, it's good. Okay, says the Gemara now. Yeah, no problem. It's not. I think it's very good. I think it's very good. Amar Rava says Rava, mi ketani shehurmu mehayoim ushchanishtu mehayoim. Did it say that what? Shehumru mehayoim, that it was separated from today. Ushenishtu mehayoim, and that it was what? Slaughtered from today? No. Shehurmu ketani, it just says separated. U'la'olam shchitasam emesh, but the shchita took place when? Erev Yontif. But if the shchita took place on Yontif, then you could send. Lema Reb Yehuda v'lo yacherim. Now, if that's the case, that you could send on Yontif, then the Mishnah would be only according to Reb Yehuda and not according to the Acherim. Because if Rav is correct, the Acherim, they don't allow any matanos according to Beis Shammai. Yet according to Rava, there is a case of matanos according to Beis Shammai, shchita on Yontif. Afilu teim Acherim, u'bahanach the nishchadu me'amish. Acherim, when the Acherim, they also agree. When do they say you can't send it? Only the ones that were shechted the day before. Good? Frag the Gemara, Yehachi Hainu Reb Yehuda, as like Frag Dak Pili. If that's the case, Hainu Reb Yehuda, and if the Gemara, it could be Nayu, there's a difference, Tfela. If you're going to go ahead and mix it with something else. Rabbi Yehuda said that, let's say, companies, if you have Beis Shammai's Maida, if you have one that was shechted today and one that was shechted yesterday, you could send the one yesterday with the one that was today. But the Acherim would hold, no, you can never send the one yesterday, even if it's mixed together. So now, again, just to review the cheshbon, right? You have the cheshbon. We wanted to say our Mishnah in the Havamina that even like Beis Shammai, if it's shechted today, you can't send it today. we're changing that Havamina. Now, if that Havamina is correct, then the Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda says, right? Rabbi Yehuda says you can't send on, according to Beis Shammai, you can't send anything on Yontif. It can't be like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi says they only argue by Truma. No, they don't argue by Truma. Our Mishnah says you're made by Truma. They agree by Metanos. Our Mishnah says they argue by Metanos. So clearly, the Mishnah is not according to Rabbi Yossi. And the Gemara did not even go ahead and qualify that. It said, Leimad Masnish is not like Rabbi, it's like the Acherim, not like Rabbi Yehuda, because clearly what? It's not Rabbi Yossi, right? Rabbi Yossi wrong on two accounts. So, and why would it be like the Acherim? It's perfect, it fits. Says the Gemara, well, it could fit according to Rabbi Yehuda also. When Beis Shammai said that what, you can't send it, it didn't mean that if it was shechted today, you can't send it. If it was shechted yesterday, you can't send it. Fed the Gemara, then if that's the case, the Acherim said you could, the Mishnah is not according to them. No, the Acherim would also agree only something that was shechted today you could send, but not yesterday. So if that's the case, what's the difference between Rabbi Yehuda and the Acherim? What is the difference according to them? And the difference would be, can I go ahead and send yesterday's stock along with today's stock? Rabbi Yehuda says you could. And notice I'm sending today's, I can include yesterday's, which I should have sent yesterday. And the Chayim say, no, there's no way you can send yesterday. You can only send today. Okay, let's do a little more. I'm Rabbi Yehuda, I'm Shmuel. Halacha Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, guys. In fact, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that the machloikas is what by Truma, but everyone agrees you could send matanas. Everyone says you can agree with matanas. According to Beis Hillel, so guys, it comes out. According to Beis Hillel, you can send Truma. Yes, and you can say matanis according to everybody. So in other words, Rabbi Yossi is the most cool at the Geshita. Rabbi Yossi is the most cool at the Geshita. Rav Tuvia Brei Rav Nachman Habile Garva de Chama de Truma. You had a barrel of Truma wine. Also, come Rabbi Yosef on Yontif. Amalei Maulap Nuya L'Koyin Idna. Can I send it to the Koyin on Yontif? Amalei. So Rabbi Yehuda told him. So Rabbi Yosef told him. Hachi Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Halacha Rabbi Yossi. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, and therefore you will be able to send it because Beis Hillel says you could send Truma, and Rabbi Yossi is the only one who says you can go ahead and send Truma. Okay, thank you. Huh?